Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel Philosmos, where everything philosophical is discussed. Now, today, I just want to extend on a topic that I spoke about on my Facebook group. If you guys don't know about my Facebook group, it's a new group that I've just established alongside with Jessica Lewis. It's called Path to Transcendence. Path to Transcendence. You heard it right. Path to Transcendence. So all you need to do is just search that, and if you cannot find it, perhaps maybe you could add me as a friend, and then you could have all access to that Facebook group. And in that Facebook group, I go live like 3 times a week, 4 times a week sometimes, and just spreading the light, spreading the love, spreading the knowledge, and helping you guys grow spiritually, physically, and mentally as well. So today I would like to talk about that subject that I did on my Facebook Live, which is it's all within your consciousness. That's the title. So most of us growing up, we have this belief. We've been taught this belief not only by scientists but religion and society in general has been perpetrating this kind of information towards every kind of individual, and it's something that appears to be real, appears to be so real that it cannot be questioned. And this belief is we are conscious beings living in the world. We are conscious beings interacting with other conscious beings in the world. That conscious beings sometimes interact with matter, inanimate objects. So there is the individual encountering many facets of the physical world, whether it be a physical object or another person, another animal. Nonetheless, this is the basic primordial belief that many of us have when it comes to the nature of our experience. The fact that we are encountering a world as conscious beings. Now, this is a belief that is so readily experienced from the first point perspective in terms of every kind of individual. And what I mean by that is this is something that we all perceive to be reality. Most of us do not question this reality because it seems so natural, it seems so intuitive that we are conscious beings living in a physical universe, living in a physical reality. That's how it appears. But I'm here to tell you something different today. Today I'm here to shift that perspective into a new perspective that most of us are not privy to, but once we get a grasp on it, it can change the fundamental viewpoint that we have of our experience, and that in turn will change every aspect of our lives. So before I dive deep into what this is, I'd like to invite you to look and investigate these two techniques that I have done personally that have helped me understand this truth. Right? So the truth is that we're not conscious beings within the physical world, that the physical world is within our consciousness. Now that changes everything. Everything. But let me further elaborate as to how I came to that knowledge and as to how I came to that experience, and hopefully you can have the same experience too if you but focus and place the necessary discipline into your actions. So there are two experiments. One is actually not necessarily an experiment but a question. But let's just get into it. So the first one was pioneered by Douglas Harding, and this is called the headless way. This technique into knowing yourself is called the headless way by Douglas Harding. So this experiment entails you sitting down wherever you feel comfortable, on a chair or on a couch, but to be engulfed with physical objects that surround you. And then once you are in that kind of position, use your index finger to point towards an object that is not very far away from you. So for example, with me, I am sitting in front of a couch. So I point my index finger towards that couch. And when I do that, I look at the details of that couch. Look at the shape, look at the size, look at the color, look at the texture, look at every single intricate detail possible in that couch. And then I'll use my index finger and extend it towards an object that's slightly closer to me. And now that, for me, in my experience currently, is this cupboard. Now I'm looking at the cupboard, I'm looking at its color, I'm looking at its shape, I'm looking at its size, I'm looking at its detail. I pay attention to as much information as possible that I can see with my physical eyes. And then I move my index finger closer. Now I move it towards my physical body, and I point it towards my feet. And I look at my feet, I look at my toes, I look at the top of my feet, and I look at all the details, look at all the veins, look at the color of my skin, look at its shape, look at its size. And now, firstly, I move my index finger towards my chest, and I realize my chest itself has intricate details too. The color, the size, it's a phenomenon, a physical phenomenon in the world. Now, here comes the interesting part. Now I take my index finger and I point it towards my face, pointing it towards my eyes. Now this becomes really, really interesting, because now the thing that you're pointing towards is vastly different compared to the things you're pointing towards before. Now, the things you're pointing towards before were physical objects, and we could readily see that they had physical attributes. The couch, the cupboard, even my physical body had physical attributes. They have a specific color, they have a specific shape, they have a specific size, and they have their own intricate detail. But now, when I point towards myself, I realize something really peculiar, that the thing that I'm pointing towards has no color. The thing I'm pointing towards has no shape. It has no size. It's just this raw, pure presence that is boundless by anything, and it's not restricted by anything. It's just vast, and this vastness is directly caused by the fact that it has no physical attributes. It's not restricted by a shape, it's not restricted by a size. It is just pure presence that witnesses, that is so vast, like the open sky. And the more I point towards myself in that way, the more I see that I am observing this physical world, that who I am essentially is beyond the physical matter that surrounds me. Who I am is beyond the physical attributes that ascribe this physical world and explain my physical existence, that my essential nature is beyond that. Something that is not really taught, something that is not really experienced. But through this experiment, I got a taste, I got a grasp as to who I am beyond form, who I am beyond these physical limitations. and I got to experience this presence that I essentially am, and that you are as well. If you try this experiment too, it will not be any surprise if you come towards the same conclusion. Now, the second one is called self-inquiry, and this is practiced by many spiritual teachers. In my experience, I learned this from Rupert Spira and Muji. So self-inquiry basically means you ask yourself the fundamental question, who am I? Now, many people will be very quick to respond to that. Many people have an egoic presence within their mind that will answer that question consciously or unconsciously. Nonetheless, that question will be answered. And many times, the answer that comes from that question will be the name. So if I had to ask myself, who am I would say I am Fumani. I am living in this country and this is my job. I like YouTube. Just giving conceptual information that can answer that question. But now we take it even further. Now we ask the question, who is that which is aware of the answer that has just been given by the ego? Who is that which is observing the phenomenons and the contents that are describing who I am? Who is that which is watching that? Who is that which is observing these events? Now that in turn creates a space in which you cannot answer that question, because who you are has no qualities. Who you are has no concepts attached to it that you can use language to communicate. That who you are is a space, an empty space, but not a space and an emptiness that is absence, but it contains raw presence. And this may not be readily understood if not experienced. So I invite you to ask yourself that question. Who are you? And watch and observe the answers that spring forth from your mind. And then go deeper. Who is that which is observing the answers that are given? This will not be answered using language. This cannot be described using concepts. Who you are is vast, and who you are fundamentally is consciousness. You are consciousness. The name we have given this consciousness is the I. Every time you say I feel this, I am happy, I'm going to do this, I am thinking that. Anytime you mention the word I, that is just the localized name of consciousness. Consciousness is the fabric of the universe, because it is consciousness that gives rise to experience. It is consciousness that makes the experience of this physical world and this physical universe possible. And that once you begin to see your true original position of being consciousness, then you realize that you are not encountering a world. That's the illusion. That's the illusion. You're not encountering a world. Consciousness is not encountering the world. The world is within consciousness. Everything that is observable in the world is a content within consciousness. Otherwise, we would not be able to perceive it. For the mere fact that we're able to perceive it shows, demonstrates, and illustrates the fact that it is content within consciousness. Anything that is within consciousness has the ability to be experienced. Anything outside of consciousness has no ability to be experienced. That it is consciousness that makes experience. It is consciousness that creates experience. Experience springs forth from the state of consciousness. And that revolutionizes everything. That changes every aspect of your life, because now you're no longer the effect of the world, but now you're the cause. Because consciousness is the fabric of the universe. Consciousness is the bread and butter of experience. And without it, there's nothing. So your world, your experience, your life is nothing but a reflection of your consciousness. That if you want to change the world, first alter your state of consciousness. And when you're able to do that, you'll be able to see that everything within your consciousness is actually a reflection of it. And that if everything is actually within your consciousness, then there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to be anxious about. There's nothing to be concerned about. Because if it's within you, then you contain the power. If it's within you, then who you are is much vaster than any kind of concern that you could carry within your mind. That if it's within you, then you are the orchestrator of your experience. That even though things may rise above, or rise within your consciousness that appear to be out of your control, are in the actual reality, in the actual truth of it all, it's still within your consciousness. And it is your consciousness, the light of your consciousness, that is giving that thing life. Without you, it has no life. That is something really powerful to understand. And once you can begin to inundate this knowledge and allow it to simmer down into your being and allow it to reflect in your actions, you'll realize something really profound. That you're no longer a victim. That you're no longer at the effect of life. That you're no longer a puppet being pulled by your society and the world at large. That you fundamentally are the very intelligence that governs this universe. And by you, I do not mean your ego. I mean you, the greater self. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to this. I do have a podcast as well on Anchor FM, so that's ANCHOR FM. So tune into that. I have 3 topics that I'm discussing with Jessica, and we're talking about the ego and authentic self-expression. Tomorrow we'll actually do breathing practices and breathing techniques that can help people alter their states of consciousness. So thank you very much for listening to this video. Of course, please like, please share, please subscribe, and to end it off, as I always end it off, for those who seek no more, for in the present we find it all. Thank you very much.